All right, preparing to live stream. Anybody else I need to get in? We've got all of our.
Rhonda, where's my numbers?
Got them. Or you do like support systems and badges? All right, I've got 10:57. I can't hear anybody.
1 minute and counting.
1 minute warning. Copy.
Attention all crew members, roll call, roll call. Engineering, do you read?
This is Engineering Manager Mary Ann. We read you loud and clear, Mission Control.
Power, are auxiliary systems up and running?
She says,
Hey, power, we can't hear you. Hang on, I'll help you out.
this habitat, you say habitat, we read you like. No. You'll have a chance to
Power, are
say
you there?
Power and auxiliary is good to go.
Power, can you introduce yourself to our crew members so they'll know who they'll be working with today?
This is Colonel Max Imam Powers sitting in high orbit.
Excellent. Back to engineering, we didn't get a shout out of your name. You're muted, you're on mute. Look, can you unmute?
Sorry, Engineering Manager Mary Ann.
Okay, thank you. Habcom, can we get a weather update?
Yes, ma'am. Mission Control, as you can see, it's a little windy here, so I hope you can hear me over the habitat. We've put the habitat together. And the weather today, although windy, is a sunny Martian summer day. It can be an average of 70 degrees below zero. It gets cold up here because the poles can be minus 220 degrees. But today it is a positive 70. However, because the air is thinner, we've just gotten an update. If you've got a team headed out for that supply lander, you need to get them going because we've got a storm coming in.
Okay.
Habitat out.
Copy that. Thank you, Captain Redstone. Environmental, is air supply ready to begin? Hang on a minute, guys. Air supply.
This is Commander Jake. Air supply is ready to go.
Thank you. Food and water, ready to go?
Yes, food and water is ready to go.
Great. Transportation, are you prepped for supply recovery?
Mission Control, this is Commander Ortiz. Transportation is up and running and ready to go.
Excellent, thank you. Recreation, do you copy?
Yes, Mission Control, Major Iron here, and we are a copy.
Excellent. Crew members, joining us on Zoom and YouTube today. Please, let's hear from you as well. You can use your Q&A or your chat function and type in your first name or the nickname you registered with. And if you want to share with us your school and your city and or state, we'd love to hear from you and see how it's going for you today as we start the mission. I am Commander Cole Harmon. I'm with the Air Force Research Laboratory here in New Mexico, and we're happy to have everybody here on Mars to start our 2020 mission to Mars. You all, crew members, comprise the advanced technical team that's been sent to Mars to set up the colony that's going to house our scientists when they come up here to carry out the exoplanet mission and do their research. We've got several tasks to accomplish today, and we want to these tasks will help us ensure that we're ready when the scientists get here so they can hit the ground running with their exoplanet research. We'd like to do an initial assessment today. so we can determine that we're ready when the next spaceship arrives with our colonists. We're going to do a brief Kahoot game and to test your readiness of your Mars knowledge and to make sure that that function is working, because we're going to be using that to do some communication with you later on today. If you haven't done so already, you can log into kahoot.it on your browser. That's KAHOOT.IT, or you can bring up the app on your phone or your tablet. You'll need to keep this event video window open, so don't shut down if you're going to use your computer. Just minimize our screen and bring up the other one so you can see the questions that we're going to do on the Kahoot. I'm going to turn this over. Oh, actually, one more thing. You had instructions on our website on how to open the Kahoot game. And I'm now going to hand this off to engineering to begin that Kahoot game. So we'll give you a little bit of time to get adjusted, and we'll start the Kahoot game here shortly. I'm bringing out my device. I don't know if you guys can see, but you want to be able to have the Kahoot game up. It's kind of bright in here.
Okay, Roger, mission control. Crews, are you ready for the Kahoot game? The short Kahoot game will be a status check before we proceed with colonization. There's going to be another longer Kahoot challenge game after this event. You'll be sent instructions for that after the event. That will test a lot more of your Mars facts. This is just going to be a short one. So we're going to go ahead and bring up the Kahoot game now. You need to enter that PIN into your app or your browser to get to the game. We'll wait and see if we get all our players in.
Looks like the players are getting signed up. We're probably about 75% of the way there, it looks like, engineering.
Roger that, mission control.
Give them a few more minutes or seconds. All right, let's do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's launch the game.
Roger.
Sorry. Here we go. What is the diameter of Mars equator? Is it red? 6,786 kilometers. Blue, 12,756 kilometers. Yellow, 120,536 kilometers, or green, 142,984 kilometers. I mix 1,000 in there.
We've allowed a little extra time for the questions because we've got a little lag. If there's anybody live streaming, we're trying to allow for the lag time. Getting some good answers in, I see.
The correct answer was blue. 12,756 kilometers. Next question. Look at that scoreboard. How does the gravity on Mars compare to Earth's gravity? Red, Mars gravity is twice the gravity of Earth. Blue, Mars gravity is 80% of the gravity of Earth. Yellow, Mars gravity is 38% of the gravity of Earth. Green, Mars gravity is 3 times the gravity of Earth. Correct answer was yellow. Mars gravity is 38% of the gravity of Earth. Let's check in and see what our scoreboard says. Griffey McCabe has gotten in the lead. Next question. How far away from the sun is Mars? Average distance. Red, 108,200,000 kilometers. Blue, 227,940,000 kilometers. Yellow, 778,330,000 kilometers. Or green, 1,424,600,000 kilometers.
Yeah. No, I have, oh, the number, yeah. Thank you.
Correct answer was blue. 227,940,000 kilometers. Let's see if our score charge has changed. Griffey McCabe is still in the lead. Next question. How long is a year in Earth days on Mars? Is it red, 324 days? Blue, 365.25 days. Yellow, 507 days, or green, 687 days. Correct answer was green, 687 days. Roman has moved into the lead with 3,830 points. Shout out to Roman. Next question. How many moons does Mars have? Red, 0. Blue, 1. Yellow, 2. Or green, 3. Correct answer was yellow, 2. Let's see how we did. Brainiac B in 3rd place. California Caleb, 2nd place. And our winner is Roman with 5,163 points. Shout out to our top 3 contestants. Good job.
Mission Control, it looks like the crews are ready for operations on Mars. Crews, be sure to leave your Kahoot browser or app open right now because we are going to be doing some polling on our life support systems. You're going to be choosing options for the life support system. So we're going to start a new Kahoot game here in just a minute. And I want you to go ahead and log into that and just leave it open throughout the rest of this event so you can vote on the options that you think we should use for our life support systems.
Roger that, engineering. Thank you.
Please enter this pin now into your Kahoot app to start a game, but you won't have a question right away. You'll get a question every time we review a life support system. So this will be open for a while. Please keep this app open until the end of the event. We're going to be conducting 6 different votes throughout the event.
All right. Trying to get my pins entered here. So we got people signing up for that. While they're doing that, we'll give a few more minutes so we can get people signed back up.
Yeah, back to you, Mission Control.
Thanks, engineering. So I'm going to take the control of the screen back, but if you've got anybody who needs to know the number of the game, just write a question and we'll answer it through the Q&A on the webinar, or we can post it up on our live streaming as well. Here we go. Got a lot to accomplish this morning. I'm confident we'll get there. We're going to start off with some slides here. Technical difficulties. I just have to remember how to do my working here. All right, now you should be able to see my screen. So before we can recover our supplies, remember we have that supply lander that landed someplace we didn't expect. We need to make sure we understand our life support system needs for this first part of the mission, because we're the advanced team. We got to make sure everything is working. So as project engineers, this crew is tasked with establishing a colony on Mars, as I mentioned, and your decisions will have lasting consequences that will determine the success of the colony once our researchers get here. So you need to select the best options for the colony. And to do that, we are going to give you a short briefing on several of the key systems and then ask for your feedback so we can make some good decisions, some informed decisions. You're going to base your decisions on 3 task assessment areas. And so I want to give you that overview before we turn it over to each of the comms. The first one is safety, safety risk. We also have reliability and suitability. So let's take a look at safety risk. We all want to be on the same page here. So when we're making our evaluations, we're using the same measuring stick, the same requirements. So for safety and risk, what we're looking is we want to select the option that minimizes the likelihood that people are going to get hurt, that has the best chance of protecting our equipment from being lost or damaged, that allows us to meet deadlines, and that is not a single point of failure. If it's gone, and then we have no other options. So we want to have flexibility, and we want to be able to move on. So when you're thinking about safety risk, those are the things to be thinking about. Our next category is reliability. For this area, you want to select the option that meets or exceeds both the availability and operating requirements. So, we want to make sure that we're meeting those without having to stretch our imagination too far just to get things to run. Look for a system that's not prone to breakdowns and has low maintenance requirements. Also consider how flexible that option is for supporting our mission if conditions or requirements change. We want that flexibility in all of our decisions. We want to position ourselves for success with the decisions we make. Suitability, our systems must operate in the Martian environment. We can get dust storms, we can get very cold temperatures, so we have to make sure that it's fully capable of meeting mission needs under those conditions. Maintenance must be easy enough for us to manage here on Mars without the need for outside resources. So that's what makes a choice suitable. As you review each system, you're going to notice there's a score for each of those categories: risk, safety, reliability, and sustainability. Those scores will range from 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst for that category and 10 being the best. These scores should help you in making a decision about the best option. When you vote on your selection, you need to remember that each decision comes with trade-offs. In other words, to get a better result in one area, you may have to give up something in another. So you may choose a really great safety option, but that particular option doesn't have as good reliability. So you have to think about those things as you're making your vote. We'll start our review process by taking a look at 2 important systems: air and power. Over to air.
Copy that, Mission Control. In preparation for the arrival of your colonists, providing a breathable air supply is essential to the survival of your team, and therefore also critical to the completion of all mission objectives. As your research into the conditions on the surface of Mars has already uncovered, the atmosphere is very thin and mostly comprised of unbreathable carbon dioxide gas. Today, you'll need to compare several different potential solutions for how to provide a life-sustaining air supply for your colonists. Next slide, Mission Control.
Gotcha.
The 4 air supply options that you'll be evaluating are: first, in red, the entire air supply is brought from Earth in tanks. The next option, in blue, the air supply will come solely from a machine that converts carbon dioxide into oxygen. The next option, in yellow, is a machine that can convert water into both hydrogen and oxygen gases, providing all the air supply that you need for your colony. And your final option, in green, you can choose to bring both machines, converting both carbon dioxide and water into the needed oxygen. Now let's explore some of the advantages and disadvantages of each of these options. And recall that the ranking system here is on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the lowest score, meaning it's not very good for your colony, and 10 is the highest score, meaning it is incredibly good for your colony. So with this, we'll consider the safety and risk of these air supply options. So starting over there in red, if all of the air supply is brought from Earth, then your colony will need a large number of oxygen tanks. Unfortunately, oxygen is a volatile chemical, which means that it's easily prone to fire and explosions. And the problem here is transporting such a large number of tanks to Mars. Every time you go to take off or land, you're burning your rocket engines. And if you burn rocket engines near these oxygen tanks, that could be a dangerous situation. On the other hand, producing your air supply right there on Mars is generally a safe is generally a safe option for you. There's still the possibility that these machines might stop functioning either due to an equipment failure or due to power failures within the colony. And one more thing is the water converter has the extra danger of producing the explosive hydrogen gas as a byproduct. And as you can see here by the rankings, the oxygen tanks are getting a low score because of the danger of transporting them. And at the highest end is having both converters as a redundancy, as a generally safer option. Next slide, mission control. Okay, so since the air supply is so critical to your colony's success, you'll need a very reliable source of oxygen. Oxygen tanks require virtually no maintenance, nor any power to be supplied to them in order to function properly. Since the air supply is coming from Earth, one can be confident that the colonists will be getting breathable oxygen. Thus, oxygen tanks are incredibly reliable. On the other hand, the carbon dioxide converter is a low efficiency machine that will require quite a bit of energy to power it. And not only that, it'll require a fair amount of maintenance as well. The good news is that the atmosphere of Mars is comprised mostly of carbon dioxide. So there's plenty of carbon dioxide available to you. However, you'll need a good filtration system in order to prevent all the dust and sand and other particles in the atmosphere of Mars from getting into the air supply. The converter from water to oxygen is actually more efficient. However, of course, we still have that issue that it produces hydrogen gas. And again, it's always good to have a backup, a backup option available to you. So having both converters is always a little bit more reliable than just having any one converter. And so you can see here, based on the rankings, that in terms of reliability, the air tanks, you really couldn't do better than that because there's no maintenance and no power requirements. Next slide, mission control. Okay, so how you provide breathable air for your colony may affect which mission objectives are feasible or how efficiently those tasks can be accomplished. Cost, transportability, and your mission schedule are important considerations. As discussed earlier, oxygen tanks will be dangerous to transport to Mars, and they will be bulky items in terms of their mass and volume during transportation, which may mean that you may not have room to bring other equipment and supplies to support your colony and its mission. Producing oxygen on Mars will provide your team with greater schedule flexibility in the sense that if you just had oxygen tanks that you brought with you, as soon as those oxygen tanks go low, you and the colonists are going to have to leave and go back to Earth. But if you're producing your own oxygen right there on the planet, then that means that if you need a little extra time to complete all your mission objectives, you could stick around a little bit longer. In addition to all this, you could also say that when you have an additional converter, like both the carbon dioxide and water converters into producing oxygen, you get other options here available to you in terms of completing your mission. So you can run one of them at nighttime, for example, the carbon dioxide converter, which uses a lot of power. And you could do that at night because that's likely not when you're doing other stuff, but during the daytime, when you need power for the other tasks that you're completing, you can switch over to the more efficient water conversion. And so on this chart, you can see based on the based on the rankings, again, the air tanks do reasonably well in terms of meeting your mission objectives. But in this case, having the two converters is actually one of the best options you could pick. Okay, so next slide, mission control. Okay, so with all these considerations, which of the 4 air supply solutions would you choose for your colony? Remember to vote through the Kahoot game, matching the color you see on the slides to the color choice in the Kahoot game.
Voting is now open. Polling is now closed.
All right. Okay, so while Mission Control is entering your voting data into the Mission and Impact Calculator, consider responding to this question in the comments. That's either in the live YouTube comments or the webinar Q&A section. And so this question is, how would having a greenhouse in your colony be beneficial to your air supply and to your food and water supply, and even to the psychological well-being of your colonists? So again, feel free to enter that into the YouTube comments or into the Q&A of the webinar. So engineering, do we have the results of the vote?
Roger that.
And so what is the mission impact?
The crews have opted to use option number 4, the green option. This results in a safety score of 8, a reliability score of 6, and a suitability score of 2. So right now, our total score, we're still in the red zone. That's because we've only voted on one life support system. We expect those to go up as our total scores go up. So back to you, Air.
Okay, great. I think that's a great choice by you guys. One of the best benefits that you get from the green choice there is that you're getting a backed up air supply system. I think it's also nice that you're producing the oxygen right there on Mars, using the resources on Mars. The good thing is that you'll likely already have some oxygen tanks in the space shuttle that you came in on, or that the colonists come in on. And having the ability to make an air supply right there on Mars means that you might even be able to refill the air supply tanks for your trip home. So I think that's a great choice. So back to you, Mission Control.
Thanks, Mission Control. It's my understanding there's a couple of questions for you that have come through the Q&A and also potentially through the YouTube. So my understanding is you'll be available to answer some of those as we switch over to Power.
That is correct.
Thank you. Power, let me bring up the presentation and we'll move on with Power.
Copy that, Mission Control. Thank you, Air. Power. It's arguably the most important task that you can do on Mars. Without power, there's no light. Without power, there's no heat. Without power, you can't regenerate your air. Without power, you can't play Fortnite in those long Martian winters. So what does that mean? Next slide, please. We've got 4 options for producing power on Mars. Next slide, Mr. Thank you. We've got wind generation power. We've got our ever popular solar. We've got geothermal tapping into the subsurface heat there on Mars. And then we've got nuclear. In terms of their functionality and other things, we'll talk first about the safety and risk. With wind generating power, we have to build these big towers. There is some schedule risk in there. We've got to get them above the surface. Mars's atmosphere is quite thin. It is not like here on Earth. Although they do have big winds sometimes, it doesn't carry as much mass when the wind is blowing. For your blue option, and I'm a top to bottom, left to right type, so I'm always going to go left to right, top to bottom, and pay attention to the numbers as we just did in the last series. The solar option, your blue option, we do get sunlight on Mars. There's one issue, however, with your solar panels. We've got to keep them clean. There's lots of dust on Mars. There's the opportunity for dust storms to blot out the sun. Sometimes these storms are global in size and last for months at a time. So there's some risk that comes in with the solar panels. However, they're very efficient at creating sunlight into electricity, and they're often portable. You can take them with you. Your yellow option, geothermal. We've got problems on Mars. You don't see a whole lot of active volcanoes blowing stuff up on Mars like you do here on Earth, or say the moon of Io there out in Jupiter. There's not a lot of thermal heat in the soil for us to get to. We have to drill a long way to get down to the heat. So there's some risk, particularly in schedule with that one, and finding a location that's suitable to put the geothermal plant. Next, your green option. I'm a big fan of nuclear power, in case you can't tell. This has got options that give us flexibility, and it gives us a reliable power source. Once we heft all this stuff up to Mars, we can power ourselves for years to come without resupply from Earth. Now, one of the problems is I can't find nuclear fissionable material easily on Mars. So we're either going to have to start mining a couple of years after we get there, or ship some more fissionable material from the Earth. Next slide. Reliability. Wind generation power on Mars. In general, we've got a little over 350 to 400 days of some kind of wind going on Mars from the recent studies we've gotten from our probes. That means that for the most part, it would produce a reliable amount of power. Solar, we still have those impacts that you're going to be finding from dust storms. We're going to have to do a lot of cleaning of these items, right? If they get too dusty, they're not going to produce electricity. For geothermal, I already stated, it's going to be hard to find a place to drill down and find enough heat to start doing exchanges. Which brings me to reliability of nuclear power. As long as we can get it there and the lines are connected, nuclear power is extremely reliable. Next slide. Suitability. If you don't have wind, you don't have power. Any questions on wind generation on Mars? Yes, we do have big winds, but it's a thin atmosphere. I don't trust it. I like something that I know at least half the time is going to be there. Solar power, again, pretty reliable as long as I can see the sun. Geothermal, I'm not even going to talk about that anymore. I'm done with geothermal. It's not going to be reliable for me. I'm back to my nuclear option. I'm not trying to bait your answer, but nuclear is quite suitable for Mars. We have safe processes. We're not going to create a nuclear detonation on Mars with the systems we're bringing. These are time, true, tested nuclear systems. Next slide. As in the previous vote, take a look at our 4 options. Weigh them carefully. What gives us the best safety and risk? What gives us the best suitability? And most importantly, because power is important for Fortnite playing, reliability on Mars. Go ahead and check out your options, red, blue, yellow, or green, and let me know what you think.
Polling is now open.
Thank you, engineering.
We're up next. We're up next, so get a piece of tape ready.
While we're waiting for information, Mission Control, did you get my requisition for all those new solar panels? We tore up a whole bunch on that landing.
Roger that. Roger that. We're working on it.
Yeah, 7 months from now, I'm gonna get my solar panels. That's gonna be fun.
They'll come out on the next supply ship.
Polling is now closed.
Copy that. Standing by your results, engineering. Come on, nuclear. Come on, nuclear. Come on, come on.
Do you have a question for us related to power while we're waiting for the results?
I'll just walk out of
We
the
can do that.
So,
As I've kind of stated, Mars has got a strange. Mars lacks a strong magnetic field, which means a solar flare could knock out our power grid for an undetermined amount of time. We're gonna have to go out and fix some of the lines that might be fried, some of our safety systems. What I want to know is what steps do you personally take to minimize your power usage to help extend the life of the colony's batteries? We're gonna have a large quantity of batteries that should keep us running for hopefully up to a week. But if I have to survive past a week, I really need to minimize the impacts on those batteries. So what are you going to do to personally manage your power usage and maybe suggest what the colony could do to keep our batteries from running dry? Let me know in the comment section. How are we doing on results, engineering?
We're just about there, power.
Roger that. I'll shut up and let you work.
There's an idea.
Lieutenant Anderson. Lieutenant Anderson. Exterior. That's what I want.
Okay, power. Surprisingly, all the crews chose option number 4, nuclear.
Outstanding.
So we have a safety score of 8, a reliability score of 10, and a suitability score of 8. That's increased all of our totals substantially. Yeah, the other life support systems will probably be moving on. So we will pack up your enriched uranium and get it sent off to you soon.
Thank you very much. And if I can get some of that plutonium action, that would be excellent. I like your choice. It gives us options, but there are trade-offs. With nuclear power, there's always the possibility that we could have an exposure of the material, and we have options to control that, but we may not be able to use that particular area for years to come. Wise choice. Mission Control, I think power is good to go.
Howard, just to confirm, you're available for the crew members to ask some questions as we move on to the next system.
Mission Control, that's affirmative. I'm on both the chat and on the far-reaching one that's outside the system, so I'm up and running.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Appreciate that. It's now time for a live update. We are going to go over to Habitat. Can you give us a status update at this time, Habitat?
Good morning, Mission Control. This is Captain Michelle Redstone. Sorry my introduction was so long. I got nervous. I'm so excited to be here on Mars. Let's take a look around at some of the things that are going on here. I'm in the Habitat, but I'm going to turn the camera so you can see that and introduce you to some people that are working down here. Oh.
We lost your video. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Sorry. No, yeah, sorry. So this is Lieutenant Anderson. He is our external mission specialist, maintenance specialist. So he's found a hole in the Habitat wall, and he's gonna need to go fix that. As Jake has mentioned about the air down here, the air is much thinner here than it is on Mars, than it is on Earth. I'm sorry. It's a 95% CO2. So if you're a plant, that's good. If you're a person, not so much. There's less than 1% oxygen and almost no water vapor So you got to figure out a way to make some water, make some oxygen, and it sounds like the life support systems are working on that. The temperature on Mars can be as cold as 80 degrees below zero, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun, especially because there's no snow. Up at the polar caps, it can be minus 220 degrees. Yes, that was a negative 220. I don't think there's even a weather report for that. Today, however, it is sunny and warm. Sunny and 75. Oop, sorry, that's a country song. But my Mr. Specialist has also told me there's a big dust storm coming. So transportation and the supply recovery team are going to have to get on that. So, because some of these storms can have gusts up to 40 miles an hour. Right now, it's pretty quiet. It's been shaking the habitat. We've had to hold it down with rocks and furniture and gardens and everything else just to keep it from blowing away. But the dust that comes with those storms can really mess up communication and vehicles. So for right now, we're repairing the habitat, getting ready to hunker down for the storm. Back to you, Mission Control.
Roger that, Habitat. Thanks for the update. We'll get transportation in the loop now to see how we're doing to be able to go get those supplies. Transportation, over.
Copy, Mission Control. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Okay.
Excellent. So colonists, when you arrive on Mars, have you thought about what type of transportation you will need to explore the planet and most importantly, move those supplies? Today we'll compare 4 different types of transportation so we can move these lost supplies. The 4 transportation options that you'll be evaluating are the red option, which is the rover, the blue option, helicopter, the yellow option, an inflatable airship, and the green option, which is the planet hopper. Let's explore some advantages and disadvantages to transport the lost supplies with these. Next slide, Mr. Control. Thank you. Note the ranking numbers. As we review each option, you will notice safety, risk, reliability, and sustainability scores in the slides that you see. The scores range from 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst rating for that area and 10 being the best. So keep those in mind. So we will start with safety and risk. First, you'll want to maximize the safety of your colonists, which minimizes the risk that they may encounter. The red option, the rover, is a vehicle that is enclosed and has a side door to take things in and out of. The rover has batteries that can be recharged and solar panels on the side. The blue option, the helicopter, would allow you to move around Mars quickly. You would have to consider the atmosphere of the planet and the violent sandstorms that have been mentioned that could occur. Could you fly the helicopter in sandstorms on Mars? What type of fuel and what type of replacement parts would you have to get in order to fix the helicopter? And actually, how much supplies can that helicopter carry? The yellow option, the inflatable airship, is another option to move around the planet. Again, the airship would allow you to move the crew around the planet pretty quickly. A few things to think about. What type of gas would you use in the inflatable airship? Would you be able to fly the airship in sandstorms? And again, how much supplies and weight do you think that airship can carry? The green option, the planet hopper, is a capsule-like spaceship. It would allow you to move around the planet again in a rapid fashion. But since it's really contained, how much space and cargo and weight do you think that hopper can carry? Next slide, Mission Control. Reliability. Transportation is essential to explore the planet and also to move and locate those missing supplies. Which option do you believe will not break down as easy? Reliable transportation will be needed. Remember to consider the ranking numbers. Next slide, Mission Control. Suitability. How you provide reliable transportation for the colony may affect which mission objectives and how feasible they're going to be able to accomplish those tasks. You got to take into account the cost, safety, risk, and liability these are all important items to think about. Also, which mode of transportation do you believe will be the most suitable to complete the mission? With all these considerations, which of the 4 transportation solutions would you choose for your colony? Vote through the Kahoot game. Remember to match the color of your selection as seen on the chart that is in the Kahoot game. Engineering, please start the voting. Members will have a minute to submit your votes.
Polling is open.
Roger that, engineering.
Polling is closed.
Roger, engineering. So while mission control and engineering are entering our data into the mission impact calculator, let's consider responding to this question. Can you think of another state-of-the-art mode of transportation on Mars? Send your comments through the YouTube or through the webinar. We'll give engineering a minute or so to get the tabulate our results. I'm excited to see what other state-of-the-art modes of transportation the crew is coming up with right now.
Roger that.
Okay, transportation, the crew chose option number 1, the rover. This gives us a safety score of 8, reliability score of 9, and a suitability score of 6. Adding that to our totals so far, you can see that we've moved up into the yellow zone for safety and for reliability, but we're still in the red zone for 6 on our total mission impact score.
Excellent choice, crew members. I think the rover is the most reliable mode of transportation, which can carry a lot and move those lost supplies. Back to you, Mission Control.
Thanks, transportation. Very thorough job. We appreciate it. Before we get ready to set out to recover those supplies using the transportation mode we've selected, we need to get an update on our food and water status. Do you copy?
Copy. Ready to go. There we go. Thank you, Mission Control. This is Commander Atencio here talking to you about the food and water options. So I welcome all of you, the Mars Advanced team, and all the hard work you're doing getting ready for the colonists to come. So we've discussed air, power generation, transportation. And in this section, we are going to address food and water, which is just as important and maybe even a little bit more, because as humans need food and water for survival. Not just any food, we need nutritional food to give our body the energy it needs. And of course, we all need water for survival. So we'll have to think about, those proteins and those carbs that we need to keep us going. So we're here. Where are we going to get our supply? So where are we going to get our supply of food and water? Here are some options. You see here, I'm going to go through them. Remember our numbering scheme here, 1 to 10, higher is better. So first of all, I'm just going to describe them. We have in the red box, all food and water that comes from the earth only, that gets shipped up. The blue box, all food and water is only from Mars. The yellow box, food and water from the spaceship and Mars combination. And the fourth combination, food and water from a supply lander and Mars. Next slide, Mission Control. So we're going to we'll start off with safety and risk, as we have with the other ones. So let's look at some options here. In the red box, since we've transported the food with us in our spacecraft, we're going to assume, and rightly so, that it's safe. So we've got pretty high safety there. Less risk of getting sick. And since we've learned how to preserve food for space travel for many, many years, since the Apollo days. However, on the downside, what if your mission is delayed significantly, or there's risk, there'd be risk of running out of food, or you'd have to return early. And you also have to consider your spacecraft is going to have to be much bigger to haul all that food for your mission. So let's look at the blue box. Here, we're going to grow all of our food and water on Mars. And the safety aspect's fairly good, but we're going to have to learn about the unknown soil, or we're going to have to ship our own soil with us. And think about what we're going to do in the meantime as we're building our water generation and our greenhouses. And how are we going to grow this? Is it going to be nutritious? Is it going to be drought tolerant? And water's going to be at a premium. So a lot of things to consider on that. And can a plant-based diet provide all the nutrients? We see that here on Earth, but is this going to work as well on Mars? So let's look at the yellow box. It's a combination. Here we have brought food from our spacecraft, can provide us with a good source as we're building our greenhouse and backup if we have issues. Is also the safety is higher and the risk is lower. Last is our second combination is lander and our greenhouse. The supply lander can supply different types of food, which would be nice, that can't be grown. So we might be able to get some freeze-dried meat or something like that we might be craving, carne seca, or could send it like that, or someone may want just hankering for a good old hamburger, right? There's always that risk that the lander could be delayed, but you've got your greenhouse for a backup, and it can sustain you till you arrive. So I think that's a pretty good option for safety and risk. So now let's go to reliability. Next slide. Thank you. Now look at how reliable each source is. We'll start again with the red box. For long-term reliability, not that good, not guaranteed. You could run out. Something could go bad if the mission is extended. You don't have a backup plan. The blue box, you have a reliable source of food and water from your greenhouse and your water generation facility. But how reliable is your water generation? What if something happens there? Because you need that to keep your plants growing. You would need a backup. Yellow box, here is a nice combination similar to the blue box, but now you've added supplies from your spaceship as a backup. So say you have water generation has some issues, you can sustain yourself till that's fixed. It's a more reliable option until what if your supplies run out if you're staying there for quite a lengthy period of time. So now we go to the green box. Similar to yellow, but now you have a supply lander that comes at regular times, or at least we hope regular. Increases the reliability of you always having enough food and water, and you can stash it for later. Even if your supply lander gets delayed, that's, you still have backups with your greenhouse and water generation. So it's may cost more, but definitely a reliable plan. Let's go to suitability. All right, so now let's look at these each options again. So the red box, we have the food from Earth. It'll feed us on Mars, so it's sustainable there. It'll work. We'll bring enough for, if we bring enough for our mission, we'll have to, it will increase the cost of the mission because you can need a bigger spacecraft to haul all that for can you imagine all that food for an entire crew for a long mission? What if you're there for a couple years? That's a lot of food. So the blue box will build our greenhouse, and we have our water generation, and it's sustainable on Mars once we got it built and get that all figured out. Got to do a lot of research here. The yellow option, a good combo plan, combines the red and blue boxes there. You already have paid for your spacecraft, and so your mission costs are included in that. Provide sustainability with your greenhouse backup, and you've got at least your spaceship till it runs out, and maybe you're ready to go back home. So let's go to the green box. It's suitable and sustainable. Cost of the lander, I would say, would be justifiable to keep that mission going on Mars, especially if they are doing a lot of great research and learning so much that we can press forward. So it's my favorite option for most of these. But you never know. You got to look at all of them. So with all of these considerations, think about each thing with safety and what makes you feel more comfortable. Look at what your mission is going to be, and how many people are going to be coming, and think about that. And now, which solution do you want to choose? So vote through your Kahoot game, and remember to match the color to your selection as seen on the chart on the game.
Polls are open.
That's what I'm saying, basically. But I wanted to say all these things on here. I like this before we sign on. Or I don't know. She can do what she wants.
How are we doing on our results, engineering?
Results are still coming in.
Good.
Polling is closed. Engineering's tally these numbers now.
So while mission control is entering their data into the mission impact calculator to see how we've all done, consider responding to this question for this section. What Mars facts that you've learned a lot through all your research prior and going through this game, through all those facts and all the research you've learned, what do you think would be the most important to consider as you design a greenhouse for the colony? And you can answer through the webinar and the YouTube chat. Or ask questions. You ready?
Food, you got me hungry for a hamburger now.
Well, hey, you have to have comfort food no matter where you're at, right?
Roger.
Just like the Fortnite game, you need power for that. You need hamburgers and fries while you're playing. Engineering, do we have any results yet?
Yes, we do.
All right.
The crews have opted for option number 4, the green option, food and water from a supply lander and what they provide on Mars. So that gives us a safety score of 8, a reliability score of 8, and a suitability score of 8. That brings us up to a total mission impact score that has a medium mission success probability at this time.
That is awesome. Copy that, engineering. Thank you all. I'm glad you've made such wonderful choices. And remember, whenever in anything you do, there's always trade-offs. You have to consider many different things. And I'm happy that you have made such a good choice. Food and water is good to go.
Oh, you made that one?
Copy that, food and water. And again, it's my understanding you'll be available for the crew members to ask questions of on food supply and water as they have them through the webinar and YouTube.
Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. It's time again for a live update. Habitat, do you copy? What's the status of the habitats?
Yes, mission control, we're doing pretty well. Mission specialist has been outside repairing various assorted holes, but I think our habitat is now secure. We've got a garden started, getting ready to be able to populate that greenhouse. Our hopes are that we can get a greenhouse going that'll help process the CO2 and feed the plants and allow us to produce some oxygen and water for the colonists. One of the other things that we don't talk very much about is waste management. And you can use a little bit of human fertilizer to grow your food, but it's not optimal. So as Dr. Greenhouse mentioned, there's a fortnight aspect to this as well. Some of our colonists have brought laser guns and are going to be targeting and pulverizing some of our dried poo. Hey, you ready? So we'll see if we can get this on camera. I don't know. We've got Lieutenant Anderson and he's shooting some of the poo and it gets pulverized and we just kick it outside. Back to you, Mission Control.
That's certainly a creative approach. We appreciate your innovation. I believe next up, we're going to head over to communication. Can we get a status update?
Seem to be holding up pretty well. As you can see, we've been passing ourselves around the planet and half the solar system from the look of things. I don't know about that poop business, but yeah. So communications is one of the things that gets neglected half the time. We do all this planning and then boom, we forget to talk about comms. So I'm really happy to talk about comms because if I can't talk to you, I can't scold you for what you're doing. Wait, I'm sorry, praise you for what you're doing. We praise in public, we scold in private. Next slide, please. Comm systems come in a couple of flavors. The biggest thing is it direct or is it bouncing off of something? Direct comms are great until I get over the horizon. You go about 15 miles and I can't see your antenna, you can't see my antenna, and you can't tell me that you just fell in a hole. That's no good. So we've given you 4 options that we are prepared to execute here on Mars. The first one, the red option, is all equipment at the colony. That means my transmitters, my receivers, my spares, all that stuff is co-located at one point. So I've got to put these things up on towers that are really, really tall in order for us to have line of sight much further than about 15 miles. Your blue option, it's equipment distributed around Mars. We have the same equipment we would have at the colony, but we have it distributed in the areas that we would go out and operate. That way we could bounce things from receiver to receiver, transmitter to transmitter, and you would be in contact for the most part as long as you had line of sight with one of these distributed distance stations. Your yellow option, this is direct satellite relay. Okay, this one's fun. So I got to have a transmitter on the ground that's got to see line of sight to a satellite that's got to be able to see another satellite and then be able to see the person that you're trying to talk to. So it's got to go up to space, go all the way over and come all the way back down. So we got to have a lot of satellites to do that. Then your green option, this is distributed with satellite relay. Really interesting concept. I've got line of sight with a bunch of receivers on the ground. Those receivers on the ground also see the satellites, so they can bounce information back and forth, and it's called a mesh communication system. Very fancy. All right, let's go talk about how we assess these. Next slide. Safety and risk. All equipment in the colony itself. In terms of risk, if the colony gets taken out, I'm calm out. That's not going to be any fun because if the colony gets taken out, we're all running across Mars trying to get away from whatever took it out. And we can't talk to each other. I'll lose contact with that dog that I just saw in the habitat, and they're not going to be happy about that. Your blue option, distributed around Mars. Okay, this one's got some flexibility in terms of risk and safety. Not one event's going to take all of them out. So I'm a fan of that. It gives me some flexibility too. Mitigate some of the problems we would have of a single point of failure. Your yellow option, direct satellite relay. I think it's kind of cool. You're walking around, you got a satellite over top of you. But how many satellites are we going to have to put up so that we don't get out of the footprint of those satellites? And how do we get another satellite up? It's not like we're going to build one here and then launch it up there. No, they're going to have to be sent from Earth. So that's 7 to 22 months if we lose too many satellites. So it's a little risk inherent in that one. The distributed relay system, now I've got a mesh out there. I've got satellites with good footprints. I've got stuff on the ground that's got pretty good footprint. I'm not generally going to be able to come unless I fall down a hole or something, in which case, oh well, it's just not your day. Next slide. Reliability. These things are going to have to be maintained. We've talked extensively about the environment there on Mars. Dust sucks. It's going to make things grind. If those antennas have to turn, they're going to grind. So we're going to have to be able to maintain them. So with all the equipment at the colony in the red option, I just walk out the door, dust the thing off, fix it, and go back inside and keep playing Fortnite. Okay. And my yellow option, sorry, my blue option, distributed around Mars, I've got to go where these things are. I've got to have good reporting systems that say status and health. If the status and health is part of the communication system and it goes down, I don't know. So I got to go out there and find out. That's going to be a good time in a sandstorm. Your yellow option, direct satellite relay. I can't go up there and maintain them satellites. You can forget it. I'm not launching all the way up there. Just go check out a satellite. So I've got to have extra satellites out there in terms of reliability. For going through the atmosphere, you get a big dust storm, you may not actually get to pump your radio signal or microwave signal through all that dust to get to the satellites. If that's all you got, we're done. Your green option, distributed around. We can talk to each other, we can go out and fix those things, and even if we've got a couple down, the satellites have a footprint that help relay to the other stations and keep you in communication. So there's a lot of flexibility and reliability in the green option. And the last slide. Suitability. Okay, if I can't talk, I'm dead. If I have problems. So by my red option, if I get beyond line of sight of those antennas, I can't talk. I'm done. So it's not really suitable in my book. Your blue one, the distributed operations, yep, as long as I'm inside of one of those, I can talk. It's pretty suitable for Mars. The direct satellite relay, again, you get an atmosphere full of dirt and you're not talking very well. So kind of quasi-suitable, which leaves the green option again. Equipment distributed with the relay satellites. Kind of mitigates all of the disadvantages of the other sets. All right, let's see what you think. We can again go through your voting, red, blue, yellow, and green. Engineering, have we got capabilities? It's still running?
Yep, polling is open.
Excellent, thank you.
Tom, are we up and operational with the current habitats now?
I'm showing green across the board. We've got direct line of sight right off of the relay station up here on the Ares 5. Got good DBs across most of the planet right now. We're going to go out of orbit composition in about 15 minutes. So we better wrap this thing up by around 12:40, or you're going to have to be going line of sight down there.
Yeah, and what's that? How long are we out of commission with the satellite?
I got the long orbit going, so we're going to be out for about 45 minutes before I come up on the other side of the horizon.
Copy that.
I can see that sandstorm that Hab was talking about from here. It's a doozy.
It's building, huh?
Yeah.
Polling is closed.
Copy that. Standing by your results. While we're waiting on those, let's talk about this interesting question I thought about in my sleep last night. What am I kidding? I don't sleep. There will be times when communication bandwidth to Earth will be limited, and the amount of non-official transmission is going to have to be kept to a minimum, right? With your limited time, who would you most want to talk to, and what in the world would you talk about? I'm up on chat. Some of you have been asking some really fun questions. Let me know what you think. I can see all kinds of fun things going on down there in that hab from here. That's got to be something. And they're shooting poo. Oh, goodness. I wonder if I can burn that stuff in the incinerator, maybe make a little more power out of that thing. I see you coding up engineering. Do we have results yet?
Yes, we have results are in.
Well, let's see what the masses want to do.
Mission Control, this is Hab. I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you guys speak up or turn up your volume? I'm having a really hard time hearing you down here with the wind.
Hey, Com, anything you can do about that?
I'll have the folks turn the gain up. We're about 3/4 of the way up already. Good luck down there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the crews opted for option number 4, the green one. So equipment distributed on Mars and relay satellites. So we have a safety score of 8, a reliability score of 8, and a suitability score of 9. That brings our mission impact totals to 40 for safety, risk mitigation, 41 for reliability, and 33 for suitability, which still has us in the medium success probability range.
That means recreation is really going to pull it together. Thank you for your selection out there on the team. Again, remember, any selection that you make does have trade-offs. Mission Control, we're going to need a lot more satellites boosted. Maybe call SpaceX and have them launch a couple more out this way.
We'll work on that, on scheduling that and getting you some help there.
Appreciate that. And I'm going to need some volunteers to go trekking across Mars and those rovers that they selected and put down some relays. Appreciate
well, we ought to be able to test that rover out with the supply mission, and then we'll be able to have those for the comm.
Yes, ma'am. And comm is good. I'm out.
Roger, let's check in with recreation. Recreation, what's your status? Over.
Hey, Roger, Mission Control, Major Iron here. So today we've been going over some important topics to help you and your fellow colonists survive Mars. This next topic will not only help you survive, but also help you have some fun while you're doing it. So recreation just isn't about only the physical aspect of recreation, but it's also about the mental aspect too. You got to be able to have some fun with friends, and that's going to help you and your fellow colonists succeed the most. So even though you're going to be picking one of these as the most important for you today, remember that it's also very important to balance out each of these in the long run. Mission Control, next slide, please. Oh, belay my last. So the 4 types of recreation that we'll be getting into before I get into the safety and risk aspect of it are going to be the physical, mental sort of recreation that you do by yourself. So that can be with the equipment that you're bringing to Mars, such as the bikes or treadmills or some weights, as well as playing some video games by yourself. I know Fortnite's been mentioned a lot, perhaps Minecraft or other video games as well. And while you'll be able to do this on Mars, you're not going to be able to really join those online games against people back from Earth. So hopefully no one here on Mars is too good over another person, or else those games could get kind of stale. And then moving on, we see social interactions. Speaking of that, and that's going to be when you're just spending some time with friends. Maybe you guys are playing some video games, watching some TikToks together, or just hanging out. Beyond that, you can do some physical exercise with your friends, such as playing kickball, trying to go and play some dodgeball, and whatever else you can kind of figure out on Mars. It's going to be kind of hard to go snowboarding or fishing until those ice caps melt and produce more snow for us. And of course, the physical exercise and social interactions that you're going to have to do on a day-to-day basis, such as chores and being in school, or in this case, all the different types of things you're going to have to make on Mars in the previous topics, and how to make sure they keep running. With these, we have safety risks involved with all of them. The highest is going to be when you're doing things with friends, just because you get a little rowdy and it's easier to get injured during those activities, especially on Mars when the environment is a lot less forgiving. Going up, we see that physical exercise is going to be a little less of a safety risk just because you're doing it by yourself. But there is still a safety risk concern. You could drop a weight on yourself. You could stub your toe while you're trying to do a jog and things of that nature. Social interactions and physical exercise and social interactions, doing those chores and learning how to do things together are going to be the least sort of safety risk involved, just because you're going to be less inclined to be outside and hurting yourselves on the Martian surface. Mission Control, next slide, please. So as for reliability, that's the great thing about recreation, is that it's always going to be reliable. Whether you have your weights or your treadmills, whether you're just trying to hang out with your friends, you're always going to have things to do, chores to accomplish in order to survive on Mars. And in your free time, you'll always be able to find some friends to have some fun times with. And Mission Control, next slide, please. And as for suitability, they all have pretty decent suitable scores, but the one that seems to be the most suitable and would help you succeed the most is going to be physical and mental exercise with friends, due to the fact that not only do you need to be physically fit on Mars, since the gravity is so much less than Earth, and it's going to lead to muscle atrophy a lot faster if you don't do any physical exercise, but also if you don't spend time with friends and being social, then it's going to lead to being a little bit more depressed or sad than if you do spend the time with friends that you should be doing. And the reason that the chores / school got such a low score is because if you do that just all the time, then it's going to lead you to get kind of mentally drained. And so that pretty much covers that. Mission Control, thank you very much. And with all these considerations, which of the 4 recreational solutions would you choose for your colony? Please vote through the Kahoot game. And remember to match the color of your selection as seen in the chart in the Kahoot game, with physical mental being red, social interaction being blue, physical mental exercise with social interaction yellow, and chores in school being green.
Votes are coming in.
And copy that, engineering. In the meantime, while they're voting and going to be entering our data here shortly into the impact calculator, please consider responding to this following question.
We'll get there in a minute. I really did appreciate you, Rec, the balance that you brought out in your presentation. I think it's really important to have work-life balance. So thank you for stressing that.
Of course, you know, it's just important to think about, even though we're here voting for the one that's going to help the most with the mission impact, we need to just remember that all of these things have a place in our lives.
Polling is closed.
Yeah, so here's that question you were talking about, Rec, sorry.
No worries. All right, so as you can see, just let us know what your favorite recreational activity is that you could do on Mars. And if you couldn't do it on Mars, how would you modify it so that you could? And I'll be sure to check on those questions and answers and get back in a timely manner. All right, and engineering, do we have the results of the vote?
We do, coming up on screen. All right, so our crews have chosen option 3, physical and social interaction. We have a safety score of 5, reliability score of 6, and suitability score of 8. This gives us a total mission impact score of 45 for safety, 47 for reliability, and 41 for suitability. So we actually have a high mission success probability for both safety and reliability, but we only have at this time a medium success probability for suitability, given the options that we've chosen.
Copy that. And as with everything, all the choices come with trade-offs. But as I said, as long as you keep in mind that everything else has to remain in balance, I don't see why you won't succeed.
Appreciate that report. Engineering, it looks like we're right on the cusp of having suitable be in the green. So I think we're doing okay. I think I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing so far. I believe next up we have another live update. So let's check in with Habitat. What's going on?
Roger, Mission Control. You know, I think Major Iron put it really well. You know, a lot of the scientists are sort of prepping for time on Mars with this COVID quarantine. You're in a small space with a limited number of people, and you got to find ways to amuse yourself, because bored's a state of mind. Up here in our little white box, the same thing can happen. Let me switch my camera around so I can show you some things. We've got some plants that we've tried to start. Some of the scientists like to garden, and we're hoping to be able to put that in our greenhouse. We've got some lovely rocks to study from the outside of Mars. You can bring a stuffed animal if that makes you feel better. It's just got to fit in your bag. And Lieutenant Anderson is a huge fan of reading and the laser gun waste management program. So we have a lot of things that we can do up here to keep ourselves entertained. But it is hard when you're in an 8x12 square. I think that's probably our last update today, Mission Control. The storm's rolling in, and we're gonna have to get back to the part of the habitat that is completely finished and secure. Captain Redstone out.
Roger, thanks, Captain. Engineering, we've seen the final mission impact score, so I think we're doing good there. What's up next on our agenda?
Well, Mission Control, next up is lunch on Mars. Planning that lunch was the crew members' task for today. That was their final task for the week. I'm confident, based on what good work they've done here today, that they've planned themselves a very good, nutritious meal, and they'll be enjoying that today or tomorrow. Another reminder, though, the crew members also have another Kahoot game, a challenge Kahoot game coming up this weekend. We will be sending out an email that has directions on it for how to log into that game. And the game will run through this weekend. You will have until 11:59 p.m. That's Mountain Daylight Time. That's our time here at Control Center on Monday, April 27th to get that game completed. Back to you, Mission Control.
Roger that, I appreciate that. And it's my understanding that the crews will be able to continue to submit work through the Friday of next week. Is that true?
Roger. Crews can submit assignments through Friday of next week. Crews that complete all the tasks will be getting completion certificates from Mission Control.
Excellent, excellent. So crews, pace yourselves. We've received a lot of good work from you so far. I think you might be getting some new ideas from today, and we'll look for continued work from you next week. And then we'll put a stamp on your success by the end of next week. So with that, we'll bring this session to a close. I'm pleased to report that all of our advanced team tasks have been successfully completed. It looks like the METS mission colonization is clear to proceed. All systems go. Congratulations, crew, on your successful completion of this part of the mission. Until we meet again, this is Mission Control signing off. Over and out.
And Mission Control from COM, if you're still hearing me, we're going to have a video blackout in 4 minutes, but all of our transmission systems in terms of text and all that still to be functional.
Roger that, Roger that. Everybody be on the prepare for that. Over now.
Mars habitat out.